Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to do line by line explanation of the chapter The Lost Child by Mulk Raj Anand. Let's get started with the explanation. A child goes to a fair with his parents. He is happy and excited and wants the sweets and toys displayed there. But his parents don't buy them for him. Why then does he refuse when someone else offers them to him? So this is the question that this story will be answering. So एक छोटा सा बच्चा है जो अपने पेरेंट्स के साथ एक विलेज फेयर के लिए जा रहा है. ही इज वेरी हैप्पी, वेरी एक्साइटेड. फेस्टिविटी का दिन है, हर तरफ सब खुश हैं. एंड रास्ते में उसे कुछ शॉप्स नजर आती है एंड ही wants to buy those things. लेकिन जो पेरेंट्स हैं उन्हें लगता है कि वो बच्चे के लिए वो चीज़ें ठीक नहीं है, सो दे रिफ्यूज. पर वहां पे फिर कोई ऑफर करता है बच्चे को वो सारी की सारी चीजें, बट देन द चाइल्ड रिफ्यूजेस ऑल दोस थिंग्स. लेट्स सी व्हाट हैपेंस एंड व्हाई द चाइल्ड रिफ्यूजेस ऑल दोस थिंग्स दैट ही इज एक्चुअली वांटिंग. सो इट वाज द फेस्टिवल ऑफ स्प्रिंग. स्प्रिंग सीजन है और वहां विलेज फेयर एक लगा हुआ है. सो फ्रॉम द विंटरी शेड्स ऑफ नैरो लेन्स एंड एलीज emerged a gaily clad humanity. Now wintry shades का यहाँ मतलब है डार्क एंड ग्लूमी लेन्स. जो डार्क और पतली पतली गलियां हैं वहां से लोग बहुत ही एनर्जेटिक वे में बहुत खुशी खुशी मेले की तरफ जा रहे हैं. सो द एलेज emerged. एलेज मीन्स अगेन नैरो बैक स्ट्रीट्स एंड emerged मीन्स appeared. सो वहां से क्राउड, ह्यूज क्राउड जो है वो निकल के आ रहा था गलियों में से. अ गेली क्लैड ह्यूमैनिटी. गेली क्लैड ह्यूमैनिटी का मतलब है हैप्पी पीपल. सो दे वर हैप्पी बिकॉज दे वर गोइंग टू द फेयर. Some walked, some rode on horses. So कुछ लोग पैदल चल के जा रहे थे, कुछ घोड़े पे सवार होके जा रहे थे, and others being carried in bamboo and bullock carts. कुछ bullock carts पे जा रहे थे. Now among them there was one little boy who ran between his father's legs, brimming over with life and laughter. So वो जो छोटा सा बच्चा था वो बहुत ही खुशी खुशी अपने फादर के साथ जो है वो जा रहा था मेले की तरफ. Now let's see what happens then. Come, child, come, called his parents as he lagged behind, fascinated by the toys in the shops that lined the way. So जो बच्चा था वो बार बार पीछे रह जा रहा था. Lagged behind, he trailed behind, he slowed down, he lingered. अब क्यों पीछे रह जा रहा था बार बार? Because he was attracted by the toys. So साथ में जहाँ वो सड़कों से गुजर रहे थे तो आस पास वहाँ पे शॉप्स थी. So वहाँ शॉप्स पे टॉयज देख के जो बच्चा है वो उसकी तरफ अट्रैक्ट हो जाता है और वो पेरेंट्स से थोड़ा पीछे रह जाता है. सो देयरफॉर द पेरेंट्स दे हैड टू कॉल द चाइल्ड अगेन एंड अगेन, कम चाइल्ड, कम चाइल्ड. सो ही हरिड टुवर्ड्स हिज पेरेंट्स, हिज फीट ओबीडिएंट टू द कॉल. सो जब पेरेंट्स आवाज लगाते हैं तो जो बच्चा है वो फटाफट अपने पेरेंट्स की तरफ चला जाता है. हिज फीट ओबीडिएंट टू द कॉल. इसका मतलब है कि जो चाइल्ड है वो बहुत ही ओबीडियंट चाइल्ड है. नाउ फीट ओबीडियंट का मतलब ये नहीं कि सिर्फ फीट ओबीडियंट है, द होल चाइल्ड इज ओबीडियंट. His eyes still lingering on the receding toys. लेकिन जो है उसका ध्यान जो है वो टॉयज में था. So receding toys means टॉयज वाली शॉप जो पीछे रह जाती है and the child is now moving on. So you can see all these shops. So रास्ते में इतनी shops मिलती है and the child is attracted और इसलिए वो पीछे रह जा रहा था बार बार. Now this is the meaning of lingering here. Lingering here means fixed. उसकी जो eyes है वो वही शॉप के ऊपर थी लेकिन वो अपने पेरेंट्स के साथ आगे आगे जा रहा था. एंड receding means disappearing. अब जैसे वो आगे जा रहा था तो टॉयज की जो शॉप्स थी वो पीछे रह जा रही थी. They were disappearing. Now as he came to where they had stopped to wait for him, he could not suppress the desire of his heart, even though he well knew the cold stare of refusal in their eyes. I want that toy, he pleaded. अब थोड़ा सा आगे जाने के बाद उसके जो मन में इच्छा थी to buy that toy वो बहुत ज्यादा तेज हो गई और वो अपने आप को रोक नहीं सका. हालांकि उसे पता था the cold stare of refusal. So उसे पता था कि उसके जो फादर है he is going to refuse. पर फिर भी वो अपने फादर को रिक्वेस्ट करता है, I want that toy. So his father looked at him red-eyed. So red-eyed, so they are going, his father, mother and the child, they are going. But then he pleads. जो boy है वो plead करता है लेकिन जो father है उसको बहुत गुस्से में आ जाता है. So he looked at him red-eyed. So red-eyed here means bloodshot eyes due to anger. In his familiar tyrant's way. So familiar tyrant's way, tyrants here means routine यूजुअल एंड अकस्टम टू, ये जो है फेमिलियर जो है एक फादर का वो रूटीन था, उसकी आदत थी. एंड टायरेंट मीन्स अथॉरिटेटिव एंड oppressive. So father was authoritative, he was oppressive, and he looked with his angry eyes towards the child. His mother, melted by the free spirit of the day, was tender, and giving him her finger to hold, said, "Look, child, what is before you." So जो mother है, वो थोड़ी सी soft है, वो टेंडर है, एंड शी melts by the free spirit of the day. इसका क्या मतलब है? Because of the festive occasion, his mother had sympathy on the child. क्योंकि मौसम जो है वो बहुत अच्छा था और सब खुशी खुशी फेयर की तरफ जा रहे थे, बिकॉज दे वॉन्ट टू स्पेंड अ गुड डे. सो जो मदर है उसे चाइल्ड पे तरस आ जाता है. सो शी वॉज टेंडर. सो टेंडर मीन्स सॉफ्ट एंड जेंटल, और वो अपने बच्चे का ध्यान किसी दूसरी ओर लगाने की कोशिश करती है. Therefore, she says that look at the flowering mustard field there, so pale like melting gold as it swept across miles and miles of land. So दूर दूर तक mustard field थी, yellow flowers थे, और जो mother है वो child का जो ध्यान है वो mustard field की तरफ करने की कोशिश करती है. A group of dragonflies are bustling about in their gaudy purple wings, intercepting the flight of a lone black bee or butterfly in search of sweetness from the flowers. So वहाँ पे dragonflies जो है वो उड़ रही थी. So they were bustling about. Bustling means full of life and commotion. And intercepting the flight of a lone black bee. So there you could find a black bee also, or there were butterflies in search of sweetness from the flowers. So all this, they were on the mustard fields. He could see all these things. The child followed them in the air with his gaze. So child started following them. So gaze here means look. So उन butterflies और dragonflies को देखता हुआ child जो है वो अपना टॉय भूल जाता है और उसका ध्यान इनकी तरफ हो जाता है. Till one of them would still its wings and rest, and he would try to catch it. So वो जो boy है, he wants to catch a butterfly, so उसके पीछे भागता है till a butterfly sits and the child wants to catch them, but it would go fluttering, flapping up into the air when he had almost got it in his hands. Then his mother gave a cautionary call. So अब जो बच्चा है वो butterflies के पीछे भाग रहा है. So now mother is again worried. So mother जो है वो कॉशनरी कॉल, एक आवाज लगाती है बॉय को, एक वार्निंग कॉल देती है. कम चाइल्ड, कम टू द फुटपाथ. He ran towards his parents gaily and walked abreast of them for a while, being however soon left behind, attracted by the little insects and worms along the footpath that were teeming out from their hiding places to enjoy the sunshine. So because the child is an obedient child, so वो फटाफट से फिर अपने पेरेंट्स के पास चला जाता है जब वो आवाज लगाते हैं और उनके साथ साथ चलने लगता है. अब रेस्ट मीन्स बाय देयर साइड, लेकिन वो उनके साथ फिर थोड़ी दूर ही चलता है, बिकॉज देन ही इज अट्रैक्टेड बाय सम अदर थिंग. अब इस बार वो किससे अट्रैक्ट होते हैं? बाय द लिटिल इंसेक्ट्स एंड वर्म्स, जो कि फुटपाथ के पास पास जो है वो चल रहे होते हैं. दे वर टीमिंग आउट. टीमिंग आउट का मतलब है यहाँ पे प्लेंटिफुल, अबाउंडिंग. बहुत सारे जो इंसेक्ट्स है वो अपने हाइडिंग प्लेसेस से वो भी सनशाइन एंजॉय करने के लिए बाहर आ रहे थे, बिकॉज इट्स स्प्रिंग सीजन, सो इट वाज अ प्लेजेंट डे. So they were also coming out to enjoy sunshine. Come, child, come. His parents called from the shade of a grove. So now the parents, they are moving on. They are calling the child, and now the parents have entered the shade of a grove. So here you can see they are sitting there, they are resting for a while, where they had seated themselves on the edge of a well. So grove is cluster of trees. He ran towards them. So जो child है वो फिर से parents की तरफ भागता है जब वो आवाज लगाते हैं. A shower of young flowers fell upon the child as he entered the grove, and forgetting his parents, he began to gather the raining petals in his hand. So जो child है वो फटाफट जैसे parents की तरफ भागता है, when he enters the grove, so जो flowers हैं वो पेड़ों से वो गिरने लगते हैं उसकी तरफ, and the child, he forgets about his parents और वो flower petals जो है वो collect करने लग जाता है. But lo, he heard the cooing of doves and ran towards his parents shouting, the dove, the dove. और फिर उसे वहाँ पे dove की आवाज आती है. So then he goes to his parents and tells them, look, there is dove. The raining petals dropped from his forgotten hand. So वो जो petals collect कर रहा था उसके हाथ में वो petals थे, पर doves को देख के वो petals के बारे में भूल जाता है. So petals जो है वो उसके हाथ से गिर जाती है, and he's now, or his all attention is now towards doves. Come, child, come, they called to the child. who had now gone running in wild capers round the banyan tree. अब जो वो चाइल्ड है वो अब banyan tree के आसपास चक्कर लगा रहा है, वो भाग रहा है, वो कूद रहा है. He is very happy. And gathering him up, they took the narrow winding footpath which led to the fair through the mustard fields. अब जो पेरेंट्स हैं उन्होंने चाइल्ड को फिर से आवाज लगाई एंड गैदरिंग अप मीन्स उसको पकड़ा एंड देन दे स्टार्टेड मूविंग टुवर्ड्स द फेयर. सो जो फेयर को सड़क जाती है, दे टुक दैट road and they started moving towards it. So winding, now here wild capers, it means a playful leap, hopping. So the child was hopping and was leaping, he was jumping around the banyan tree. And then winding means twisting and curving. So parents, they took a twisting and curving path that led towards the fair. So now they are going towards the fair. They are on the road that would reach, that would take them to the fair. As they neared the village, the child could see many other footpaths full of throngs converging to a whirlpool of the fair, and felt at once repelled and fascinated by the confusion of the world he was entering. So now as they were nearing the fair, so वहां पे चाइल्ड देखता है कि हर तरफ से लोग आ रहे हैं, बहुत रश है, हर तरफ से लोग आके वो कन्वर्ज हो रहे हैं एक ही जगह पे. सो दे आर कन्वर्जिंग, यू कैन सी दे आर कन्वर्जिंग इनटू दिस fair. So the child was at once repelled and fascinated. वो repel भी होता है लेकिन उसको वो attract भी होता है. Now repelled का मतलब है driven back, put off. Now why he was driven back? Why he was put off? क्योंकि वहाँ पे बहुत सारा crowd था. So he felt nervous. इतने crowd पे वो maybe पहले कभी गया नहीं था. So he felt nervous to enter that fair in that crowd. But then he was fascinated also. Fascinated, attracted, because that fair was attracting him. The things in the fair, they were fascinating him. So he was nervous, but he was also fascinated by the confusion of the world he was entering. So that world is the world of the fair. A sweetmeat seller hawked gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi at the corner of the entrance, and a crowd pressed round his counter at the foot of an architecture of many colored sweets, decorated with leaves of silver and gold. So वहाँ पे जो सबसे पहला स्टॉल उसे मिलता है, that is a stall of sweetmeat seller. और वहाँ पे तरह तरह की मिठाइयाँ हैं, और मिठाइयाँ एक ऐसे पिरामिड की शेप में अरेंज की हुई है. आर्किटेक्चर ऑफ मेनी कलर्ड स्वीट्स. आर्किटेक्चर here means the shapes that has been given. The child stared open-eyed, and his mouth watered for the barfi that was his favorite. So open-eyed here means amazed. The child was amazed and spirited and wanted that barfi which was his favorite. So he slowly murmured, "I want that barfi." Now murmured is whispered. But he half knew as he begged that his plea would not be heeded. So plea का मतलब है उसको पता था, वो request कर रहा था, लेकिन उसे पता था कि उसकी जो request है, that will not be heeded. Heeded here means fulfilled, because his parents would say that he was greedy. So without waiting for an answer, he moved on. So वो जो child है, वो आगे की तरफ चल पड़ता है, because उसे पता है कि उसे यही आंसर मिलने वाला है. The parents are going to say that he is being greedy, so he should not ask for sweets like this. So पहले जो sweet meat maker है, वहाँ पे उसे आंसर मिलता है parents से that he was greedy. Now let's see next क्या होता है. So then there was a flower seller who hawked a garland of gulmohar, a garland of gulmohar. The child seemed irresistibly drawn. Irresistibly drawn जो है, so वहाँ पे means he was so attracted by those flowers that he wanted a garland. So he went towards the basket where the flowers lay heaped, and half he murmured again, "I want that garland." But he knew well that his parents are going to refuse to buy him flowers by saying that they were very cheap. So without again waiting for an answer, he moved on. So flowers, उसे देखता है, उसे बहुत अच्छे लगते हैं. He wants a garland of गुलमोहर, but उसके जो पेरेंट्स हैं उसे पता है कि वो बोलेंगे कि ये फ्लावर्स बहुत चीप हैं, so he should not be asking for those flowers. So irresistibly का मतलब है uncontrollably drawn. So वो अपनी desire control नहीं कर सकता, and therefore he requests, he murmurs that I want that garland. लेकिन पेरेंट्स का जवाब सुने बगैर he moves on, because उसे पता है कि पेरेंट्स क्या कहने वाले हैं. Then drawn here means attracted, and then A man stood holding a pole with yellow, red, green and purple balloons flying from it. So थोड़ी आगे चलता है तो उसे एक balloon वाला मिलता है. So the child was simply carried away by the rainbow glory of their silken colors and he was filled with an overwhelming desire. So फिर child को देख के the child is again attracted. The child is carried away means gripped and he's fascinated by the rainbow glory. Now glory here means beauty, beauty of those balloons. और फिर उसमें एक intense desire जागती है. Overwhelming here means intense desire. But then again he knew that his parents, they are not going to buy balloons for him because they will say that he is too old to play with such toys, that he has now grown up. अब उसके balloons के साथ खेलने के दिन नहीं है. So he is too old to play with balloons. So जब वो sweet मांगता है, बर्फी मांगता है, so the parents जो है वहां पे उसको पता है कि पेरेंट्स बोलेंगे दैट ही इज बीइंग ग्रीडी. फिर उसके बाद जब गार्लैंड ऑफ गुलमोहर है वहां पे ही नोज दैट पेरेंट्स आर गोइंग टू से दैट they are cheap, and for balloons he knows that parents are going to say that he is too old to play with balloons. तो आगे देखते हैं फिर क्या होता है. So वो आगे मेले में चलता है तो उसे वहां पे एक स्नेक चार्मर नजर आता है. So a snake charmer stood playing a flute to a snake which coiled itself in a basket, its head raised in a graceful bend like the neck of a swan. So swan की neck की तरह जो है snake जो है वो flute के music पे वो dance कर रहा होता है. So he's bending his neck like a swan while the music stole into its invisible ears. So like you can see the music, it is going into reaching the snake and he is moving and he is dancing to the tune like the gentle rippling of an invisible waterfall. So like this you can see like the waterfall, this music is reaching the snake. The child went towards the snake charmer, but knowing his parents had forbidden him to hear such coarse music as the snake charmer played, he proceeded further. So चाइल्ड जो है वो स्नेक चार्मर और स्नेक का डांस जो है उसकी तरफ अट्रैक्ट होता है, लेकिन फिर उसे याद आता है कि उसके पेरेंट्स ने उसे मना किया है कि इतना कोर्स म्यूजिक, कोर्स हियर मींस हार्श, इतना हार्श म्यूजिक जो है वो नहीं सुनना है. सो ही मूव्स ऑन. अब जो म्यूजिक है this line, while the music stole into its invisible ears. इसका क्या मतलब है? The music, it reached the snake as a gentle movement of water waves in series of waterfalls. So जैसे waterfall में वाटर जो है, वाटर वेव्स जो है मूव करती हैं, उसी तरह जो है वो म्यूजिक, जो साउंड वेव्स है वो स्नेक तक पहुंच रही हैं एंड स्नेक इज डांसिंग टू द ट्यून. द चाइल्ड इज अट्रैक्टेड, लेकिन चाइल्ड को पता है कि उसके पेरेंट्स उसे क्या बोलने वाले हैं. द पेरेंट्स आर गोइंग टू से दैट ही शुड नॉट हियर सच हार्श म्यूजिक. फिर वो आगे चलता है. So there was a roundabout in full swing. Men, women and children, they carried away in a whirling motion, shrieked and cried with dizzy laughter. So बहुत मजे कर रहे हैं लोग उस roundabout पे. So child watched them intently. Intently का मतलब है carefully. So बहुत ही मगन हो जाता है child उसमें. And then he made a bold request. Now this time he's making a bold request. If you remember, आगे जो child सिर्फ murmur करता है, वो slowly बोलता है because उसे पता है कि उसके parents जो है मना करने वाले हैं. But this time वो इतना fascinate होता है, वो लोग वहाँ मजे कर रहे हैं, वो चीख रहे हैं, वो चिल्ला रहे हैं. So he makes a bold request because अब उसकी जो urge है वो उससे बिल्कुल भी उससे कंट्रोल नहीं हो रहा है उस पे. So he says, I want to go on the roundabout. Please, father, mother. So this time he also says, please. He's pleading. There was no reply. He turned to look at his parents. They were not there ahead of him. He turned to look on either side. They were not there. He looked behind. There was no sign of them. So उसे जब कोई जवाब नहीं मिलता है तो वो पीछे मुड़ के देखता है and he's not able to find his parents. वो सब तरफ देखता है और उसे उसके parents नहीं नजर आते हैं. A full deep cry rose within his dry throat, and with a sudden jerk of his body, he ran from where he stood, crying in real fear, Mother, Father. So उसे समझ नहीं आती कि वो क्या करे और वो इधर उधर भागने लगता है and he is shouting, he is crying and he is shouting, Mother, Father. Tears rolled down from his eyes, hot and fierce, his flushed face. So flushed face was convulsed with fear. The flushed face is red, hot, burning face due to anxiety. And convulsed का मतलब है almost जो है twisted and when going into spasms. So with fear जो है वो एकदम इधर उधर भागता है. He's panic stricken. He becomes anxious and he ran to one side first, then to the other side, hither in all directions. So इधर उधर भागता है वो, knowing not where to go. Mother, father, he wailed. His yellow turban came untied and his clothes became muddy. So उसकी जो पगड़ी है वो भी गिर जाती है, clothes जो है वो मिट्टी से भर जाते हैं because he is running here and there. But he is not able to find his parents. Having run to and fro in a rage of running for a while, he stood defeated. His cries suppressed into sobs. So rage का मतलब है यहाँ almost hysterical. So एकदम anxious और nervous है वो, इधर उधर भागता है और जब काफी देर से वो इधर उधर भागते उससे पेरेंट्स नहीं मिलते हैं और रो रो के उसकी बुरी हालत हो जाती है. उसके जो क्राइज हैं they are now suppressed into sobs. He is not even able to breathe properly. At little distances on the green grass he could see through his filmy eyes. Filmy eyes means watery eyes. Men and women talking. He tried to look intently among the patches of bright yellow clothes, but there was no sign of his father and mother. So वो crowd के बीच में से देखने की कोशिश करता है कि कहीं पे उसे उसके father and mother नजर आ जाए, but he is not able to find them. So वो देखता है कि सब लोग अपने अपने में मगन हैं, सब हंस रहे हैं, जोर जोर से बातें कर रहे हैं. सो पीपल हु सीम टू लाफ एंड टॉक जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ लाफिंग एंड टॉकिंग. तो उसे लगता है कि ये बेफिजा लोग जो है वो बातें कर रहे हैं, वो हंस रहे हैं. सो ही इज ट्राइंग टू लुक फॉर हिज पेरेंट्स बट ही इज नॉट एबल टू फाइंड देम एंड ही इज क्राइंग टेरिबली. He ran quickly again, so this time to a shrine. So फिर एक मंदिर की तरफ एक रास्ता जाता है, वो उस तरफ को भागना शुरू करता है because he thinks that maybe he'll be able to find his parents there. So सब लोग उस तरफ जा रहे हैं, so he also goes that side. So every little inch of the space here was congested. So you can see such a huge crowd there. वहाँ पैर रखने की भी जगह नहीं थी. It was a congested place, overcrowded. But he ran through people's legs, his little sob lingering. Mother, father. So रोता रोता लोगों की जो है टांगों के बीच में से जा रहा है and वो सिर्फ यही बोल रहा है, father, mother. Near the entrance of the temple, however, the crowd became very thick. Men jostled each other. Jostled means pushed. So there was pushing. People were pushing each other to get inside the temple. Heavy men with flashing, murderous eyes and hefty shoulders. So because the child was small, so जो लोग थे, obviously they were adults, so they were huge people there. And the poor child struggled to thrust a way between their feet, but knocked to and fro by their brutal movements, he might have been trampled underfoot had he not shrieked at the highest pitch of his voice, father, mother. So लोग जो है वो एक दूसरे को पुश कर रहे थे और उनकी जो ब्रूटल मूवमेंट्स है, ये लोगों के पैरों के बीच में, लोगों की लेग्स के बीच में वो अपना रास्ता ढूंढने की कोशिश करता है. And he was just about to be trampled. So strong and vigorous, brutal movements का मतलब है strong and vigorous movements. He was about to be trampled underfoot, but वो एकदम से चीखता है father, mother. और एक जो है one kind man, he listens to his yelling and he picks the boy. So a man in the surging crowd means rushing crowd, heard his cry and stooping with great difficulty lifted him up in his arms. So वो रोते हुए बच्चे को उठा लेता है. How did you get here, child? Whose baby are you? The man asked as he steered clear of the mass. So जो वो आदमी है, वो kind man जो है वो उसे side पे ले आता है, crowd से दूर ले आता है और फिर उसे पूछता है that whose baby are you? Where are your parents? The child wept more bitterly than ever now and only cried, I want my mother, I want my father. So जो वो बच्चा है वो कोई जवाब नहीं देता. He just says that I want my mother, I want my father. The man tried to soothe him by taking him to the roundabout. So जो वो man है, kind-hearted man, वो उसे roundabout के पास लेके जाता है and he tries to calm down the child. तो उसे कहता है कि अगर उसने झूला लेना है, so man thinks that maybe वहाँ पे जो child है उसका मन लग जाएगा, so he won't cry. Will you have a ride on the horse? He gently asked as he approached the ring. The child's throat tore into 1,000 shrill sobs and he only shouted, I want my mother, I want my father. So ये वही roundabout है जहाँ पे जो child है एक bold request करता है अपने parents को because उससे control नहीं होता. He really wanted to have a ride on this roundabout. लेकिन जब वो kind man उसे offer करता है, he bluntly refuses and he says that he just wants his mother and he just wants his father. So then that man takes the child, steered clear means avoiding the crowd. So he just says, I want my mother, I want my father. So the man headed towards the place where snake charmer still played on the flute to the swaying cobra. So वहाँ पे snake charmer जो है वो भी flute बजा रहा था and the cobra was dancing. So listen to the nice music, child, he pleaded. But the child shut his ears with his fingers and shouted with double pitched strain, I want my mother, I want my father. So now the man offers the child to see the snake dancing. But this time the child, he puts his fingers on the ears and he says that he just wants his mother, he just wants his father. So man offers the child to listen to that nice music, to see the snake dancing, but the child refuses. The man took him near the balloons and thinking that the bright colors of the balloons would distract the child's attention and quieten him. So फिर वो balloons के पास लेके जाता है, यही सोचता है कि balloons को देख के शायद वो बच्चा जो है वो खुश हो जाएगा. But then again, the child again refuses balloons. He persuasively asked, the man persuasively asked the child. Persuasively का मतलब है, he says that, so here you can see the balloon seller. So balloon seller के पास जाके, he says that if the child would like to have a rainbow colored balloon. But the child refuses. So persuasively is convincingly. The man is trying to convince the child, but the child doesn't want anything. He just wants his father. He just wants his mother. Now, after that, let's see what happens. The man, still trying to make the child happy, bore him to the gate where the flower seller sat. So उसके बाद फिर वो flower seller के पास चला जाता है and he says that look at those nice flowers, how fragrant those flowers are. Would you like a garland to put around your neck? The child turned his nose away from the basket and reiterated his sob. Now reiterated का मतलब है repeat. फिर से वो वही repeat करता है, I want my mother, I want my father. Then, thinking to humor his disconsolate charge by a gift of sweets, then the kind man, he thinks that maybe the child would like some sweets. So here he takes him to the sweet makers. But disconsolate charge means unable to be comforted. So since the man was not able to give any comfort to the child, he was not able to quieten the child, so he takes him to the man, to the counter of the sweet shop, and there he asked that what sweet would he like to have. But the child turned his face away from the sweet shop and only sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. So he only wants his mother, he only wants his father. So all the things that he had desired before, now he was refusing all those things. So here, these are the image credits and the story. The story is about relationships. It is about the parent and child bonding. So, till the child was with his parents, he wanted to enjoy all those things. But once the child has lost his parents, same things were not giving any joy to the child. So, वो जो बच्चा है उसे वो सारी चीजें जो हैं अपने पेरेंट्स के साथ ही खुशी देती ना. वंस द पेरेंट्स वर नॉट विद हिम, वो उसे कोई भी चीज जो है वो अच्छी नहीं लगती. सो द स्टोरी हाईलाइट्स दैट रिलेशनशिप्स आर मोर इम्पॉर्टेंट. Relationships, they are important than materialistic things. And the child also, though the child is very young, but still the child understands the importance of his parents. So he desires only his parents when the parents were not with him. He refused all the things that he had been wishing for before. So this is the story. I'll be uploading the question answers of this story soon. So stay tuned and keep watching.